All right, we're choosing to divert our normal men's battle camp Bible study when we have been focusing on the Bait of Satan by John Bevere. We're dealing with offense, and it's ironic that we're dealing with offense because that is very much what has come up in our sphere of influence, our Christendom, our nation last week with the assassination or the murder of Charlie Kirk. I'm calling this session today a frank discussion about Charlie Kirk. All right, and so is there anyone who is unfamiliar with? Not, I mean, I didn't know about. I didn't even know who this cat was before he made news having been murdered. So is everyone pretty much up to speed on who Charlie Kirk is or was?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. Just for posterity, can somebody just put it out there? Like, what was this? Who was this man? Uh, what what was he known for? And we all know what happened to him. So
I used to watch his videos before this happened. He has a company called Turning Point USA.
mhm.
He is similar for those who know who Clift is. They tend to go to colleges. They talk about political things. Sometimes it can be a conversation about God. Um, and they're really going to the young generation, just having conversations with them. The kids come up to the stage, they'll ask questions, maybe about homosexuality, transgender, a lot of the main woke, quote unquote, woke cultures type subjects that might come up. Um, and it can even be on like things of education as well. And then he'll respond based off of his beliefs and whatnot, and using that platform.
Okay. Now, what's ironic is my daughter, Maya, she's what, 13 now? She was wanting to join the debate team. And so when we were looking at the activity list at Clover High School, we didn't see debate explicitly, but my wife saw something that said TPUSA. And not knowing anything about Charlie Kirk, she was like, I need to talk to you about what you trying to join because the only thing that I see that's debate related is this TPUSA. And she said it's MAGA influenced, and it looks like they have a very particular vein that they're approaching. And my wife was like concerned about it. She was like, "Yeah, we need to talk about that." And come to find out, TPUSA is this initiative that he actually started on campuses and drawing in, just like what you said, Tay. So thank you for giving us that. Now the controversy comes in this. He has a thing called Kirk's Watch List, where anybody that speaks out against the Trump administration, anyone who they believe to be woke, they will put them on this list. And these people who make this list are on college boards. They're not all minorities, but if they have spoken against any of the things that he believes in, he will put a target on their back. That watch list has caused people to get harassed via email. This one black woman had been called all things out of her name, and if the man of God that he should be, in my opinion, should have been like, no, stop that, don't do that. But I haven't seen that he did that. He allowed it, and so I guess I should start my timer. And so the thing that bothers me is that we continue as a country to create this Christian man or this Christian person who speaks Jesus' name, but does not evoke the principles that Jesus had as far as you are supposed to, you meet people where they are. You don't condemn them. What I see in him is a very Pharisaical spirit that is very much about the law, that is very much about establishing their relationship with God and lording it over people. And whoever does not agree with what they believe is like, oh, well, you on the outside. And we're going to make sure that you're shunned. It's like how the Jews treated the Samaritans. Like, no, you can't be amongst us. And that is not the message. When Jesus came on this planet, he condemned that and said, no, this is not how we're going to represent God anymore. We're on a new covenant. And even as I think about, Paul was on a crusade against Christians in his early career. However, upon conversion, he left his former way of thinking, he left his former way of speaking, and his fruit showed that he had truly been converted. I don't believe Charlie Kirk's his fruit is contradictory. And I'm not speaking on whether or not I think he's saved or not, because that's not my call. but his fruit was raggedy. Some of his fruit was raggedy. He had Jesus in his mouth, which means, it should have been in his heart for him to be able to confess that. But his shortcomings, which we all have these shortcomings, his shortcomings were such that it was doing harm to people. Because you know what, one thing that I feel like MAGA has gotten really good at, they pander to a specific part of this country that has these bigoted far right views, and then and it makes them feel justified, and now beginning to persecute those who don't look like them, those who don't think like them, and they don't do anything. They pander to that crowd, and then just fan the flames and let it just go all over the place. Kier and I were talking. There's violence that's been erupting. HBCUs have been getting threatened since his assassination. Before they knew who it was, there's a young man by the name of Trey. What's his name? Kier.
Hold on, Trey Reed, I think.
Trey Reed at Delta State University, who was found hung this week on a tree, and they're like, it was no foul play. It's real. The timing is crazy, and that's the thing. Though you can clearly tell that I'm worked up about this, I have to keep in mind that the enemy is not. It's not Trump. It's not Kirk and his movement. It's a principality thing that's really trying to get us to keep fighting one another and not see who the real enemy is. And so as long as that, but though I'm aware of that, I'm still, as I'm getting down to my minute, I'm still sick and tired of this conservative evangelical messaging that gets embraced, that gets what's the word? Endorsed despite their clear bias and prejudice against most of the time people who don't look like them, who don't think like them. And I'm tired of this country always being represented by that type of Christian, right? And his wife has already said, we're gonna double down on the message now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay. So now he's a martyr, and we have to deal with whatever it is that this movement's going to do to prove, like, and to put Christianity on top of it and be like, they're not going to stop us. And that it slightly frustrates, it slightly frightens me, but more than anything else, it frustrates me. So I'll yield my time.
I think I'll go next. Because I might be in the minority on the call. So let me see. Oh, you already started. Okay. I'll start with the latter and then work my way towards the beginning. With the wife, I did not like the message. I told my wife when I heard about the message and I heard it myself. I didn't like that she made it more about him than about what he quote unquote maybe stood for or didn't stand for, but his words say he stood for, which that should have been about the faith. Um, as far as the tragedy, I do think that principalities are using this to further divide.
Yes.
It reminds me more of a time. It reminds me of the time of George Floyd, not in the same vein, but of the same division. Um, his as far as the, I think the reason why I might be in the minority is because I've been got rid of the whole identity thing. I don't identify with being black. I am black, but it's not because somebody looks different from me or what the agenda may be. That at the end of the day, I identify with Christ. And as far as the kingdom goes, I remember what Jesus said when they was like they're casting out demons and whatnot in your name, well, as long as the name is being proclaimed. So I didn't know about that. However, I didn't know about him and watched his videos before this happened, and because I had that previous and knowing the videos and whatnot, and actually, I did see some fruits. So I know it's easy for us, some of the people, to probably try to go research and let me watch these videos. Let me go through these videos. Let me see the negative. I've seen some videos before these things got enlightened, and him talking to people of color, of him enduring things that they say, and him not responding. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. So it's hard for us to tell the heart, but I know the Lord can use anyone. And in this, I guess the bigger thing I want to mention for those who do watch this or who have question about, why is this happening? The Lord said they persecuted me, so they'll persecute you. If he was a true believer. He did stand for, two-parent household. He did stand for the moral things. He did speak against sexual morality. He did speak against the things of the law, like you said, pharisaical spirit. Um, but he also said those things without a judgmental tone. I mean, there multiple videos. He has people coming up who obviously don't believe in him, and if people are judging you, you're not gonna want to go to somebody to get judged. But these kids was coming to him, disagreeing with him. You know what I'm saying? And actually, there was some that could be, it was used. So I think we got to be careful. I remember when it first happened. I told my wife and my reps, one of my reps who is also a believer, to finish out this minute, that we got to be careful on what words we speak. Referencing what Philip Anthony Mitchell mentioned in one of his clips about the us as believers, we the world right now who are in confusion, we can be the light in this situation, and God can use that to turn them towards the kingdom. But if we aren't careful and we're speaking out of our own emotions or biases, we can squander our opportunity. And so, from that eyesight and that lens, we really got to take our emotions out of it and say, Lord, what do you want me? What do you want me to be as your mouthpiece? How can I spread more love when right now the devil wants to spread more hate?
That's what's up. Any direct response to Tay, or you want to have your own 4 minutes to say what's on your heart, on your mind? Because sometimes it is good. I think I might have told you all this before, but one thing that I do with my wife, and I have to constantly remind her because she's like, yo, calm down. It's like behind closed doors, I will get all of my emotion out. And I don't like direct it on her. I'm like, yo, like, and she's like, yo, you good? And I'm like, yo, if I don't get it out here, then when I go outside, there may be a remnant of it. So I said I over express myself inside so that when I get out there, I can be more composed. And so I think I think it's a good strategy as long as to Tay's point, you don't let your emotions continue to drive you, right? And so this is that forum for us to be able to do that so that we can be that light that Tay spoke on. So I appreciate you, Tay.
No problem. No problem.
Um, um, I don't really have like too much of an opinion. Like, I don't let think you can start. I don't really let things like this get me riled up because I just see how the world is, and like certain scenarios that I've been a part of myself, um, whether it's personally dealing with being harassed by police or being in very chaotic situations in the army where I've seen racism, like just slithered in into toxic organizations, situations where I'm in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I'm an infantry black officer, telling a whole bunch of um, different ethnicities, but primarily white men on how to keep their emotions regulated when we're getting called to go to the Black Lives Matter movement in DC, and we're second in the shoot to go. I'm drawing bayonets, or in knowing that the group in front of me, like we're called the Red Devils for my unit, the group in front of mine is called the White Devils, and they're over here. Leadership is trying to tell them, "Hey, be quiet, be quiet. When you go up there, you're not the White Devils, you're 2504." And for me, then seeing the next year, January 6th happen, and then nothing, happens or whatever, and I'm like, okay, cool. I absorb those things, and I look at it, and I'm like, all right, this is just kind of like a temptation for me to get frustrated. And I've always been in positions where I've looked at it and I'm like, all right, don't get frustrated. I was just on Facebook scrolling, looking at somebody, post the different reactions of what happened when George Floyd, died versus what happened here. And social media, the media, they paint these pictures. And I mean, I've even been in instances where I'm like sitting here getting actively deployed into somewhere, and the media is saying something completely different than what's
Mm-hmm.
actually going on ground.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I look at all these things and I'm like, all right, consistently, like, yes, black people, in instances were harassed at a very high level. And Charlie Kirk has said certain things that isn't necessarily for the care of our group of people. I'll just say it. He isn't. He's and with that, like, he is a person that is a public figure. And I've seen his videos before, and he is a father, and he, is well, he was a husband, and was a father, and it's still, no matter what is all that's going on, he didn't deserve to have his life taken. Like,
Absolutely not.
he had words, he had things to say. And every single human being on this, like, the First Amendment is the freedom of speech, which I feel like is a great amendment. I feel like everybody should have the opportunity to speak, but at the end of the day, what we need to work on in our own individual levels is, how do we control and regulate our emotions? How do we, take in information that people say to us, and not go into attack mode? Because there's been situations where I've been harassed. I'm sitting there with handcuffs on my back because a cop says I'm smoking weed. I'm 19 years old. I've never smoked weed before in my life. Me and my three other homies, we just sitting on the front of, my people's, step, and I'm just like, oh damn, that sucks. But I like these highly tension racial moments and all that, like, because I've never reacted before, it's never interfered with me. And I know that's that's like God leading me. So I just look at it and I'm like, dang, that sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, he put himself out there, but this ain't the first assassination attempt. We're overreacting. He was a podcaster. He wasn't Martin Luther King. He wasn't, JFK. He wasn't Abraham Lincoln. He's Charlie Kirk. And I'm not saying that his life isn't more, or less. But what I'm saying is that we got to just kind of chill for a second and just see how the situation develops. You know?
Appreciate that, Kai.
Yeah, man.
Sure.
All right, I'll try. And it's interesting because one of the things that I premised with this, and as Reggie and I talked about, is this discussion, once again, is it about Charlie Kirk, or is it about what happened to Charlie Kirk, right? And I get it. It's like, but the thing is that I want to have the right perspective concerning everything. A person's a person, and people be people, and as much as we want someone to speak and to give and to have zero flaws, we know that that's not going to happen. We know it by reading the Gospels. By reading the New Testament. Paul, as great as he was not without his flaws. And even though we're called to have great fruit, Paul had to correct
Peter.
Mm-hmm. But in that moment, we could have said, dang, Peter, your fruit was off, cuz. And you shouldn't be producing fruit like that. You're right, he shouldn't have. So he got corrected. The man was 31 years of age. He started his platform at age 18. Okay? Now, I'll be the first one to say, if you caught Kier at 18 and the stuff I said and the stuff I did, I'd be canceled right now. If you caught Kier at 21 years of age when I gave my life to Christ and some of the stuff I was saying then, I'd be canceled right now. How many things have I even said in my faith, in my zeal, in my belief of where I thought I was in God, that if I look back on it, yeah, I'd rescind some of the stuff I said, right? Because I'd be like, yeah, I had to grow from that. I had to get better. But once again, we're at an age where, because of social media and because of platforms like YouTube, everything somebody says is all the way out there. Where I got saved in '01, it wasn't all the way out there. And that stuff wasn't being recorded. But if you'd have recorded the stuff I was preaching and the stuff I was teaching as I was learning these things, you'd have been like, dang, bro, what the heck did you just say? Shut up, sit down. So here's the deal. Can I allow a person the modicum of humanism, even in your walk with Christ? Surely. Because have I watched this man? I have. Have I seen his debates from beginning to end? Absolutely. Have I heard some things he said and I was like, dang, bro, that was kind of hard. That was kind of rough. That was kind of tough what you said. Yes, I can say that. But can I also say that about Christ? That Christ said some stuff that was rough, tough, and hard. It was like, ooh, I got to eat that? Yeah, let me get my jaws tight because I don't know if I got the muscles to eat what you just dropped. And the thing is that whether or not I choose to be offended or choose to allow these things to quote unquote affect me, that's my choice, right? I could care less who it is. I care less if you're white, if you're black, if you're left or you're right, if you're up, you're down, if you're in front or in the background. It's my choice whether or not if I choose for it to offend me or to cause me. Do I see the man and saw what he did? Absolutely. Thing is that I watched this man convert an atheist to Christendom. I saw him do it. I literally watched this man talk this atheist all the way through. And I mean, watching him, and this atheist was like, dude, this is ridiculous. You just convinced me of Jesus. And he was like, that's my job. My job is to present you with Christ. Has he said some things? Yeah. But the thing is like, whether or not it bothers me or not. But once again, there's things that I've said that's bothered others. There's stuff that people have said who's close to me, and I'm like, ooh, a little bothered by that. Maybe you shouldn't have said that. But once again, everything he says is aired since he started, his podcast, since he started his TV show, since he started all those things. Everything you say is going to be aired, right? And we know the truth of it is that we're not going to agree with everything. So I'm just staying in a space where I want to see kingdom, and I want to be warned about what's happening, and I don't want to lose sight of what God is doing in the earth based off of any one person or the nation's reactions or responses to it.
All right. So I would like to speak to that. All right. So we talk about Jesus. We talk about Peter and the need for him to be corrected, right? And all of us needing to be corrected and needing to grow. Who was pulling this man to the side though and being like, bro? I mean, we don't know, but I know that the violence that the violent acts, the violent words that his parts of his speech has encouraged. When Peter picked up that sword and sliced that man's ear off, he was like, "Hey, look, if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. Basically, what you put out will come back to you, right?" And so that's applicable to all of us, and it's a warning to all of us to be mindful of what you say. If you have a platform, see what you're saying here is that you didn't have a platform. And I don't know if you would have had a platform, if I would have had a platform at my younger self, if I would have been more careful about my words, I don't know. Even if I'll say this, even if I would have been more careful, the rougher Reggie still would have had some stuff where I would have said some stuff out of pocket, but it would not have condoned or invoked violence or harsh language that other people can then say, yeah, I'm going to now go out and have this type of discord and have this type of open disagreement where I am targeting somebody. And if I would have found out that my words were doing that, I would have publicly rebuked it. I'd have been like, hey, wait a minute, this is not what we're doing. This is not representing the Christianity that I'm trying to put at the forefront. So that type of challenge needs to be there. And that's the thing that frustrates me. Why does it seem like this country continues to, like, I think the thing that upset me the most is the fact that immediately after it happened, everybody's like, I mean, it was people that are not here now that was like, oh, I feel a certain way about what happened to him. Like, I took that personal. And I'm like, well, we took it personal when all the people who didn't have platforms were murdered, the George Floyds, all the different people, right? And what did they do? The instant that many of our people, if we can use that word martyr, were martyred, right? They Trayvon Martin, well, he was a thug. They put the negative out on Front Street as if to justify, well, he was out there doing dirt, so this thing kind of came back on him. But the minute that one of theirs gets gunned down, it's like, oh, they do the exact opposite. And that's the thing that I'm sick of, that type of hypocrisy. This is the thing. Can you tell I'm offended? This is the thing. Look, do y'all remember when we first started the devotional for the Beta Satan? I'm going to read to y'all what I said was in my top 5 offenses. I said, I forgive the conservative evangelical church for its Pharisaism, bigoted bias, and complacent ignorance when it comes to the commonwealth, equity, and authority of the kingdom of God. I release my offense against them the same way God sees and operates beyond my offenses against him. Clearly, I got to work on this because I am bothered that this is the leadership that the world is seeing as a representation of the Christianity that I identify with. I'm disturbed by that. And that's kind of what I have to eat. To your point, Tay, I go to Philippians 1:18 that basically said, if the gospel is preached in pretense, yet I will rejoice. And I'm like, I got to eat that. Because now that the question becomes, if this is who God has deemed to be the leader of the face of Christianity, then we need to pray for them. If he's elected them the way he elected Rome, because Rome was vile. And I feel like this country is very much Romanesque in how they're leading and showing the world what Christianity is. But Rome spread it throughout the world. And so we have to, I have to, that's my job now, is to pray for his wife, that she doesn't get out here and promote all the ignorant stuff, but has a change in heart so that she continues to put the right things out there. And all those who are lining up, their hearts need to be changed because they are who God is choosing to advance the kingdom through in this age and in this day.
Amen. Can I piggyback off that?
Let's go, Jonathan.
You pretty much took the words out of my mouth because I feel the same. What bothers me is that evangelical Christians, they can have negative things to say about the black and brown and Spanish communities, but as long as they're speaking the gospel, then it gets overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And that really bothers me. It's like you shouldn't be allowed, because you have this platform. Too much is given, much is required, right? You have this platform. You shouldn't be able to speak the gospel and then turn around and say, well, if I go into an establishment and I see a black doctor, I need to check his credentials to see how he got there. Off the wall stuff like that. You shouldn't be allowed to be able to say that, and then people just forget about it. Well, he was a Christian. I'm like, that really bothers me, because I'm like, okay, because he knows the word. You know what I mean? The devil knows the word better than we do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at what point do we say, okay, well, like you said, like everyone said, you shouldn't lose your life for that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. But everyone's going around like he was this holy saint, and the whole, when Jesus drew the name, what he wrote in the sand and said, if anyone have not sinned, cast the first stone. Like, I get all that. Like, we've all had sinned, we all have come short of the glory of God and everything like that. But like you're saying, it bothers me that you can get a pass for being like a bigot and saying certain things because, oh, he's a Christian and he knows the gospel and X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't think that's right. It brings me back to Trump. A lot of evangelical Christians, they love Trump, but I'm like, but look at the fruit he's displaying. He's not displaying good fruit. Like, yeah, okay, he wants to, he wants to get rid of abortion, he wants to get rid of all these other things. Well, I mean, look at all the stuff, look at all the other stuff he's doing. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. So that's what really bothers me. Like, I pray for his family. Like I said, no one should ever have to lose their life. But I just believe, like, and it's sad, but I just think another Charlie Kirk is gonna rise and follow the same game plan, because that's what seems to work in this country. Like, I get everyone on my side. I'll speak Christianity and I talk against black people, and that'll make me popular. And you know what I mean? And there's no accountability to that. There's no accountability, and I think there needs to be more accountability. God rest his soul. I do believe he's in heaven. I know we're not going to talk about that. I do believe. I don't think he died right away. So, me personally, I'm thinking he probably, asked God for forgiveness, as we all would do in that moment as we're laying there dying. So I do believe he is going to be in heaven and we're going to see him again one day, if we all make it there. That being said, though, the stuff he did do on earth, some of the things he said, was awful. It was awful. And like, to Akira's point, he said it when he was younger. So I guess you kind of give him a pass because we all did things when we were younger. But yeah, I think I don't know. We're supposed to forgive and forget as Christians, right? Also. So I don't know. That's just kind of where I am on that.
Appreciate you.
Uh,
You see it in your time, bro? You done, Jonathan?
Oh yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
if it's okay, I got a question and I guess a statement.
Okay.
The question would be, what did he say to invoke or incite people for the things that came afterwards? Because I guess I do. So then, from that I don't know. So I would like to know. Um, and then from there, I got another question. I guess from what I do know.
Are you saying the stuff that happened afterwards? Just to be
Yes. Yeah, because you say he invoked or incited, and that it put a target for the things to come afterwards. Because I don't know that. So I mean that makes regardless. I mean I do want to know that for just my own knowledge. It doesn't change my viewpoint, but that kind of like okay, more understanding is what I'm wanting to gain from this.
so.
Um,
We make sure that we're clear. Like what we saw happen with these threats to HBCU campuses and this dude that just got hung.
yeah, because you're saying that his
I'm not
yeah,
saying that this is that. I'm saying this is a precarious time that we're in because those two things, all these things happening around the same time, seem to what it looks like is that it's a response
got you.
to that. I'm not
Okay,
saying
okay,
that he did that at all. No.
okay, okay. The second thing was I've been writing notes just to make sure because I tend to forget stuff really easily. I was like keeping up. Um, man, see, I didn't write the other note down. I had another question. I lost that train of thought. When where do I want to start with? It seems like there's a correlation between if you have an emotional bias against Trump, then you're probably going to be against the natural reaction of the I'm gonna say quote unquote hypocrisy of the conservative and evangelicals, however you say that,
Mhm.
the church pretty much. Um, I think it does come back to just sadly it comes back to race. And I think me and my mom, man, I've been talking about this with everybody because it's just good dialogue to have. And I really just like getting understanding because obviously none of us think the same. And when we're talking to another brother or a person who is lost, who's wanting to know, getting that understanding is a better way for us to communicate with them. And she said, obviously my mom's black. She said, we black people are so quick to jump on something when somebody mentions a racist. And the question that came to me was if this man never said anything about race at all, how we then respond. But I believe because that's the thing that comes up, that's where that offense comes from. The DEI thing, I told my mom about because I told her I was like, I remember about vaguely remember it. I was like, I remember him saying something about DEI, and I know people got turned up about it, and I had know people was bringing it up on social media, but I didn't remember it, and I was like, I only had the video to I don't know what I'm not gonna look it up because I already knew that I got where he was coming from, but out of context, if you haven't watched the video out of context, you're instantly gonna get triggered. Well, she texted me today and she said, I watched the video and her exact words was, and I told her this video's gonna be on YouTube, so let me know when it's up so I can send it to her. She said, I agree with what he said. And then she told me the context of because I was like, I can't remember the context. And then she was like, he had said if he was on an airplane, if he was on an airplane and the pilot was black, he was gonna wonder whether or not this is due to DEI or not, and if he was credible. And the reason why, she then did research before they did a DEI inclusion type thing, black pilots were 3%. There was less than 8%. After they did it, it jumped up to 50%. So she was like, "That's a huge number." And then they was talking about the only way that would be is if they lowered the standard. Not only way, but there has to be that some standards must have been lowered. Who knows? But I could understand that logical thought point. Does it have to be about race? No. But I do think the devil's been using the same thing to entice and cause the defense, which is the reason why I'm glad we're reading this book in this time of day. Because our people, it's not the first thing I identify with, but I understand we're black. The devil knows that is a quick way to get us offended. And then what do we read in the first chapter of the devotional? A lot of people can't operate in God's function because they're allowing offense hurt to keep them from that.
To piggyback off of that, right? Am I good? Can I talk?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I might have been past 4 minutes. I
No, you
apologize.
smooth, you smooth. Like just to bring up like what I was talking about earlier, like whenever I see situations, I look at them and like just like you just said, Ted, I wait before I get emotional just because I know how like the videos are clipped. You know, they're
Yep.
they're there to entice you. Come here, come here.
Yep.
Come over here and be sucked into this negativity right quick. You know what I mean? And like, being that I have to be on social media because of my career path, I have to filter through things like that all the time. I have to filter through conversations when I'm selling houses because everybody has different personalities. I've had to fire clients, because they've made racial remarks to Hispanics before, and I'm like, come on, man, like, what are we doing right now? Like, look, like, in this administration, when I'm talking to a certain person or whatever, and when they get too enticed into the thing, I'm like, hey, look, just take a second and breathe real quick because it is chaotic. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. At a first look and a glance, it's crazy because like being in the 82nd and they called in the white devils, like I said, to the Black Lives Matter movement was just because that is their time to be on rotation in the shoot. That's what it really, and I was a part of that rotation. Their name is the White Devils because it was, I don't know what they had in the history. I can't even tell you. It's still crazy to me. But they had that from history way before. I don't know. They could have been something different. There was Red Devils, White Devils. We were the Devil Brigade. That's what they called us. They could have picked a different name. But there was also other, colored devils or whatever. Um, then they had a Nazi flag in their cough, but that was from something that they had got from World War II, after victory or whatever. It was part of history. The thing is though, is that in America, we try to ignore the history. We be sitting there like, oh man, it didn't happen. It's like, no, embrace it. Embrace what happened. Suck that in. Stop trying to disguise it. So like there's multiple different layers of people. One, a certain kind of part of people aren't taking accountability. But we also at this time in like presence where we have the full ability to create generational wealth, to join the same militaries. We still have to advocate for ourselves and all that, but it's not to the point where we got to go out here and be violent. We've always, like as a people, have come to that. But also on the other end is that that's something that has been learned, you know. And when you look at everything overarching, it's like, where does that break? Like, how do you stop that? And it's by not paying it, like, not, it's like paying attention to it, but not letting it get your full emotional, emotions devoted into it. You gotta let it be like, all right, I see that. I'm gonna speak my piece. I'm gonna act accordingly, and I'm not gonna allow these, high chaos situations affect what I need to do on the daily and inspire the people that I get to speak to individually, or the groups or the settings that I get to speak to, because that's where it really counts. It doesn't, like the moment that I feel like I let some negativity go into my day, I'll mess up something on a transaction. I'll mess up something with one of my mentees from the courthouse. I'll miss an opportunity. I'll get frustrated with the mother of my child. I'll let that one little thing come in and like a meteorite mess up tons of other things. But when I'm like centered, I look at it, I'm like, that's crazy. I just saw a guy's blood just splurt out of his neck. Something that I've seen wild things before, what I'm saying, being in the profession, but I'm like, wow, that's something for the world to see right now. That's crazy. Now everybody's gonna act in chaos, and then like in those moments, you got to be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing none of the things that everybody else is doing on this planet right now because it's taking away from what God wants me to do. That's exactly how it works. And like locking in with God, like I don't know every scripture in the Bible, but I know how God works. God, like, yeah, here's a test for you. Here's a challenge. Here's an opportunity for me to go ahead and see how you're going to react right now. And that bullet had his name on it way before any of us existed. That was going to be a thing in history. You know what I mean? So it's just all about still understanding how to like navigate through these situations. That's just how I look at it. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe that doesn't. But the bait and Satan specifically, like you said, Tate talks, in the first chapter, about this, yeah, I'm not giving it too much time. I'm glad that we're talking about it though. But
Yeah.
everybody else I've seen, they've been so emotional, and I'm like, hey man, like what's that on what's the movie called? Paid in Full. Said folks die every day, B.
Oh, so see, and here's the point. So the fact, I think somebody has already said this. Like somebody, this is going to go on our YouTubes, right? Somebody could take that clip right there. People die every day, B, and
That part.
use that against us, right? I want to make it clear too. You said you've seen that in your profession. I'm just gonna make it clear so people don't mess that up. You were in the military. You want out here like an assassin. You was in the
No,
military.
I mean, yeah,
No, I'm just trying to, you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? I'm trying to protect you, bro.
I get what you're. I get what. So to speak
Because
on
that's how
that,
you started
yes,
talking. You were like,
yeah.
people take clips. And this is why I kind of wanted, more diversity on this call tonight, because each of us, we already know these algorithms are feeding us what they know we like. And so I wanted to have a balance. And it looks like even amongst us, even though we're all black, we've been seeing different, we've been looking at ingesting different messages that Charlie Kirk has had. And so I think there's even a good balance here where it's like, well, I've heard him say this, and it's like, but I've seen what his words say against this person too, though. And so because of whatever biases these algorithms pick up on, that dictates what they show us. But then we should have balance enough. And this is why we wanted to have this discussion tonight to say, what have you heard? Because Addison wanted me to listen to some stuff, and I was like, in the moment, I'm like, Addison, I don't want to listen to what this man had to say. Because I know that at the end of the day, no matter what he said on this side, he's saying something else that's causing harm on the other side. And this pattern that we've already talked about, where it's like, well, because they mention Christ, they get a pass on this other stuff. Like, I wasn't in the mood to deal with that. I was like, no, I don't want to hear what he had to say. Right. I'm just being honest. I just want to point out this Pharisaical approach to things is found in Matthew 9, 10 through 17, Mark 2, 15 through 22, Luke 5, 29 through 39. Right. This is not anything new that we're seeing. Right. Nothing new under the sun. Right. And so this two-party system is how God is choosing to advance his kingdom. I've said it before. Forget left and right. Here, I just saw a meme that was picking up on what you said before. It's like the eagle can't fly without the left wing and the right wing, right? And so we have to be kingdom on both sides. Now, I'm not for doing away with conservatives. I'm not for doing away with liberals. There are faults on both sides, but the kingdom got to be on both sides for God's government to continue to increase on his shoulders, right? And this foolishness that we're seeing happen is it if we focus on the wrong thing, we'll keep on struggling with one another instead of fighting against the principalities that are clearly trying to agitate, stir up, and keep us offended and thinking that we're justified in our offense, right? I told y'all I got notes.
I have a quote that I'm curious to what people think about it. From
hold on for a second. Let me get my 50 seconds up. hold it, Jonathan. Here's the thing that I'm trying not to do, right? I resisted. I've seen some stuff. I read some things. I didn't share it on Facebook because what I don't want to do, like I know Brother Addison is not here, but I know he has spoken out outwardly about his offense with Elevation Church, right? Elevation Church clearly has a message of God. It's clearly attracting people, but there's some things that they do, the culture and what they do that he's picked up on. And he's like, I don't like. I'm not going to try and change his mind on that, right? I'm like, all right, you're entitled to your opinion. And so I think the thing that I didn't appreciate when he said some stuff to me was like he was trying to change my mind. And I'm like, bro, this is how I feel. Let me sit with that. I'm letting you sit with, you don't like Elevation Church. I don't like what Charlie Kirk represents and how he's been embraced, right? And I will contend with that. I will deal with that. I am praying on that. But in this moment, in this time, in this season, I'm like, here we go again, right? And so, my time is clearly ended. Jonathan, what's your quote?
No, I decided against it. It's all right.
You sure?
I want to hear it.
He said, "I'll hear it."
Okay. It's two quotes actually, and you guys probably seen this. Charlie Kirk was quoted as saying Martin Luther King, who was assassinated by a segregationist in 1968. He was just quoted as saying that he was awful and not a good person. This is what he said about Dr. Martin Luther King. He has also said, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which ensured the right to vote for African Americans and protected them from racial discrimination, was a huge mistake. I feel like you can't get around that. So when he says other things, it's like, you know what I mean? You can say, oh, well, I could understand why he's saying that, but then you got to look at the whole picture. Like, you know what I mean? This is a pattern of him saying things about the African American community. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, I was listening to what you said about the whole pilot thing. I'm like, I think that's great. I would never think, 50% in African. I would think, okay, most pilots seem to be Caucasian or what have you. Are they just getting hired because they know someone, or is it because of their friends? You know what I mean? And they cut that out, and that's why it's the increase in black people. Why aren't we thinking that route? Why are we thinking, oh well, I'll be worried. Did they lower the standards? It's crazy to me, and I think that's a big issue.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
I remember I was in I want to say I was a junior in high school. I was young. AB honor roll. I didn't I was lazy, but I can get ABs without trying. My mom would say, "You need to try to get straight A's." Should have, but I got a scholarship, full scholarship at partial. And my AP biology teacher said, and granted, she's an old white lady. She meant well, but the way she said it came off bad, and I was offended when she said it. She said, "You're smart, and you're gonna get into a college because you're black." She said it similar to that way, but saying like implying because I'm smart, I can get into because I was trying to apply to some school very up there. She's like, "You're smart," alluding that they have the what is it? Where
Affirmative
you
action.
affirmative
Affirmative
action.
action.
Yep. And I had my little dreadlocks. I'm a fan. I'm like, I know she didn't just say that, but I she wasn't meaning bad. My point with that is that if if I go in the inverse and my wife is dying right now, she needs a surgeon. I would much rather her have the best, well qualified surgeon than a surgeon that was there because they had to fill a quota and there was a more suitable candidate. That I know we we another thing, and I'm gonna end it with this. We all sin, and none of us is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But the sin that is more visible is easier for us to do the same thing what you guys are saying, which is judge.
Mm-hmm.
Homosexuality is it's easy to see that you're a sinner because you're gay. Is
Mm-hmm.
but our sin that people can't see.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like so. I remember now it made me think about one of our pastors. He's an old white man, and I love how honest he was about this. He said the Lord dealt with me for a long time about me saying because he's an old white man about saying interracial couples. You know what I'm saying? Because that some people used to interpret the one of the scriptures that said that you shouldn't mix.
Right.
He said the Lord dealt with him for a long time about it, and he finally got free of it. And I mean, this guy's like one of the guys like I never knew it, never knew it. Been preaching to me since I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the pastors, but he was like that was one of the things he was dealing with, and he was like, but and it was in the time he said it, he was like, and honestly, he wasn't comfortable saying it, but he was just showing like we don't everybody's not perfect, you know what I'm saying? But it's quick for us, like you guys, it's not that we're overlooking it. How much time I got left? Because I don't have my screen. I got last 30 seconds.
You got a minute.
All right. It as far as I can't speak for everybody because I know we're gonna have black sheep everywhere. We're gonna have people doing the utmost. You know what I'm saying? We should be looking at the ones who we know have the right fruits as doing the right thing. It's easier for me to have a to give a voice to it in this time because I can identify with the Christendom of it rather than the race of it. With George Floyd, looking back on him, like there were so many things that I didn't identify with. The only thing I could identify with is the fact he was black. But that shouldn't be enough for me to feel enticed. The fact that a man was persecuted, I can say, you know what, that hopefully his brother in Christ was, that he was doing God's will was. If that's the case, I have something to say. He spoke up for something. All right, 2 minutes, 2 seconds. I'm done. All right. I have my screen like to the side, so I couldn't even see the time. I got to flip back and forth.
That's
Yeah.
cool. there's something that you said and Jonathan said that I'm gonna try and merge into my statement, my next 4 minutes. So the thing with the pastor that you had, I think he knew that his heart was not in the right place when it came to interracial couples, so he kept his mouth shut. He didn't speak on it because he was like, "Ooh, that's not." And the gauge, like it's the compass though. That moral compass was functioning on the inside of him enough to say that's inappropriate and I shouldn't say that. And he had a platform where he could have come out and said that. And that's the thing, like to be emboldened to feel like I can say this. I can say what I feel about this black pilot. I can put somebody on my watch list. And this young lady said, I am on Charlie Kirk's watch list. His so-called professional watch list run under the umbrella of Turning Point USA. For weeks, my inbox and voicemail were deluge. Mostly white men spat venom through the phone. I'm reading what it says. They called her bitch, cunt, nigger. They threatened all manner of violence. She continued. They overwhelmed the university's PR lines and the president's office with calls demanding that I be fired, Patton wrote. The flood was so relentless that the head of campus security reached out to offer me an escort because they feared one of these keyboard soldiers, cowards, might step out of his basement and come to do me harm. Because he didn't have the sense to say, you know what, I shouldn't say that to this incendiary crowd. But that's the place that we live in now where people are like, no, I'm going to pander to this audience. And like I said, fan the flame and walk away when the blaze hits. Turn the other way and be like, I don't see what that's happening over there. That's irresponsible. Right? But here's the thing. We're all irresponsible. James talks about the tongue being a fire that no man can control, right? And then it also goes to say that no man should, a fountain can't have bitter and sweet water coming out of it at the same time, right? That shouldn't be the case, but clearly that's the case for all of us, right? But that's what we're seeing. That's what I feel like I'm seeing, I saw, and I'm reading and hearing about in Charlie Kirk. Now, yes, he's getting judged because he has this platform, right? Teachers, those who are teachers are held at a higher authority, are held at a higher responsibility than those who don't. And he was clearly had a platform to be a teacher. But here's the thing. So with all of our shortcomings, whenever our time comes, whether it's premature or not, whenever we die, though our spirit, we talk about this all the time, our spirit, for those who are born again believers, is already seated in Christ in heavenly places. It's perfect. That's what gets salvaged in an instant, right? Our soul, though, still goes down into Hades and has to stay there so that when judgment comes, the things that we never got dealt with, the things that we still held on to, the lifestyles that we're like, nah, this is just who I am. I can't. That's the thing that will be in the book of life, and that's what Jesus will look at us and say, "What about this though?" And it's not like our salvation is at risk at that point, but that's the thing that I kind of have been thinking about too. Like each of us are going to have some things that we didn't fully get delivered from, that our soul is going to get cleansed of when we are standing before this book of life, right? And so this may just be one of the things that he's going to have to contend. He's going to have to look Jesus in his eyes and answer for, right? Like all of us. So I'm not here trying to say he wasn't saved. I mean, the fruit is saying something, but like I said, I don't know his heart. And to some of your point, when you say that he brought an atheist to Christ, that's great. It does make me think, you know, Jesus said, some of y'all say, Lord, Lord. And I'll say, depart from me, you who worked iniquity. I never knew you. But I don't know where he stands with that. But these things are in the scriptures. And these things we have to continue with and try and understand and reconcile when things like this, what I'm calling flashpoints, happen. And it's a good time to be circumspect and check yourself as well, instead of like Tay is saying, looking at, well, he on the platform, look at him.
You know, I want to, you know, chime in with it, bro. And I hadn't, this was you bringing up Charlie Kirk's watch list is my first time ever hearing about this watch list. I have no idea what it is. I don't know if he started it, if he's endorsing it, if he's the one pushing it. I hadn't heard anything about a watch list, and what all that means, and not knowing the full details of whoever this young lady is and what it did and what he did say, did not say. I'm completely ignorant, you know, to all of those things. And I'm sitting back and I'm like, okay, there are things that are being said once again. And I hear you, you know, when the phrase being given a pass, and it's like, okay, so then what do we do when it comes to a person who has made decisions, making decisions that may be causing a hurt, and you just say give them a pass. I don't know how do we measure that. I don't know. I don't even know what you do with that. It's not about giving a pass. So either one, you tell them sit down, shut up, don't say nothing, and you're not allowed to speak anymore, or does a person get corrected, whether or not they choose to accept a correction or not? Man, this is really one of those things where it's like, once again, as Kai said, I step back and I'm like, okay, one, I'm not going to be emotionally invested, involved in all of this, because I don't know what to necessarily do with it. I understand, that if he's making statements and saying things that may cause hurt and harm to someone, you're right. That's going to be something he's got to give an account of, before Christ. And the idea of a person who lives by the sword, that you die by the sword. But at the same time, man, you got Acts chapter 12, and Acts chapter 12 says an apostle was killed with the sword. Do we know they lived by the sword? So he died by the sword. We don't know he lived by it. And it's like, okay, how do we reconcile all these things, and becoming that emotionally invested, and just being careful that we aren't allowing too many things to get in our eye and get in our heart and move us in certain ways. I, Brother, we are 40. We are in our 40s. Me, you, and whoever else. Think, Jermaine, are you in your 40s or 50s, bro? Where you at?
Is Jermaine sleep with his eyes open? Like, what is?
Nah, I was looking for the.
Oh man, was searching for it. Are you in your 40s?
I'm in my 40s. Yes.
In your 40s. And we are in our 40s, which means that we've been alive long enough since Jimmy Carter was a president. Okay. And we go all the way back to that. Can we find a righteous president? Can we find somebody who's just walked this thing completely out in God? How many men of God have done great works, but then still fallen at the same time? We hate it. I'm not justifying it, but I'm just saying we hate it. I mean, Ravi Zacharias was considered the most prominent stinking apologist of our time. But when the man died, we found out the dude had sex rings going on and prostitution. It was like, what are we doing? And we've got men of God who have been utilized to do great works. And still at the same time, man, they end up finding themselves at a P. Diddy party. And so here we are. I'm like, Father, we're looking at it, and as we know, men are men. But what we often will say to people who will not want to come to Christ, not want to go to church because of church hurt, because of things wrong with the Christian, we'll be the first ones to tell them, don't look at the Christian, look at Christ. We'll be the first ones to say, don't look at Christians because you're not following the Christian. You need to follow Christ. And we recognize it because we want them to not overlook, but we want them to not be held back because of the mistakes of men and the flaws that we have. We want them to see Jesus. We're just apologizing for the misrepresentation of the followers, right? And I'm like, Father, forgive me if I'm blind to some stuff. Forgive me if I'm ignorant to some stuff. But man, it's like, Lord, there's a way by which you want your kingdom to operate, and God's gonna be God, regardless of. He's gonna do his thing. I just want to make sure that as men of God, even no matter what, that we aren't being pulled based off of melanin. We're not being pulled based off of politicals. We're not being pulled based off of anything other than the kingdom. Just being very careful, because these things can incite and they can entangle and they can catch us. And I don't want us caught up in those things. I want us to be able to walk this thing out, continue to raise up disciples who make disciples, and just not being caught. So I hear you, man. And I hear everybody's frustration. Red, I hear your frustration. I hear your offense. Jonathan, I hear yours. And I'm listening to the men of God. I hear Tay's, perspective. I'm hearing Kai's perspective. Still waiting to hear from Jermaine and Lorenzo. But I hear it, and I notice it, and I see it. And the objective at the end of the day, I hope, is that we can make sure that we're walking this thing according to what God has for us. Because am I going to make a mistake? Sure. And what you're asking, Reggie, is that if I do make one, I should own up to it. It's like, make sure you're owning up to whatever you choose to do, because that would be a right and righteous thing. whether or not I do it or not, I don't know. But it's just this thing, this divide though. This divide is what's hurting me, because it's like we're seeing this thing tearing at the body of Christ. And if anything that I get offended and get hurt by, I'm not gonna say offended, hurt by, is that's the part that hurts me the most. It is seeing the body of Christ walking, and then something like this happen, all of a sudden we do this. And now we over here on the left and on the right, and I'm like, oh my God. And it creates uncomfortable spaces. I got you my time. But it's like it creates uncomfortable spaces. And it's like, Lord, how do we reconcile this? How do we mend this? How do we heal this if this is going to be consistent? Because we know it's going to keep happening. It's not going to stop. This is going to keep happening. So if it's going to keep happening, then we're going to keep getting more and more divided, or are we going to find a way to bring this thing back?
That's my concern. I don't see how it would take a strong movement of God, because like I said at the beginning, I feel like the church, this is just another reminder of just the chasm, the schism that does exist in the church. And as much as I'm kingdom first, and as much as some of our brothers at, something like a Lake Wiley Christian Assembly are kingdom first, there's some underlying things that we don't speak on enough, that when things like this happen, it reminds us, oh, we got a long way to go. How are we gonna get there, right? And it's frustrating. And then when somebody like a Donald Trump, who's the head of state, says, I could care less about mending political divide. He said that in response to Charlie Kirk's death. He was like, I don't care, because he wants revenge. He's going out, he's going to do whatever. He's like, I don't care about the political divide right now. And I'm like, you're the president of the United States, and you coming out your neck saying that, like, you are not helping things. You are not helping matters at all. And so when people continue to support him and not correct him, that are on his side, there are people who are beginning to be like, you know what, I can't fool him. But it's like, I wrote this haiku called The Great American Race Bait. And, you got to see the imagery to it. But it says, it deals with Cracker Barrel. It deals with shooting fish in a barrel. It deals with a powder keg, and it deals with crabs in a barrel. It says, shaking up crabs like fish shot in Cracker Barrels primes the powder keg. Right? If you're going to keep on seeing that this country is divided, but you keep on race baiting, and you keep on being like, I'm encouraging division, I mean, I have a problem with that. And the base that Charlie Kirk pandered to, by and large, with some of his less Christian themed language, is who Trump panders to. And when they see him saying stuff like this, they're like, well, shoot, if the president is wilding, then I can wild out. And that's the thing that concerns me. But again, it goes back to, we need to pray for the president. We need to pray for this administration. This is who God is choosing to lead right now. And so we got to pray for them. And I've never prayed more in my life about the state of this country than I have this year. And I will continue to do that, because it's just, it feels like we're in a dire place, man. And, the issue about it always just feels like we have to be the ones to take the higher ground. We have to be the ones to remember the kingdom. And I don't mind remembering the king, putting the kingdom first. I don't mind that at all. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. But it's tiring sometimes when stuff like this comes up. But, and it's just like, huh?
No, my bad. I was interrupting.
Was it quite okay? It's tiring to be like, man, we still here. Oh, going it. Like, this is still what we're contending with. This is still where we at. Right. And so I said I wasn't looking forward to this tonight, but I am glad that we're having this, because like I said, I don't know about any of y'all, but I needed to have this conversation, because like I said, I need to be able to speak this out so that I can deal with it. And the word of the hour is reconciliation. It's reconciling myself to myself, and it's reconciling myself to God, and it's reconciling myself to the church as it exists, and it's reconciling myself to this country. And we all need to be doing that. And to your point here, if for a long time, I can remember there was a pastor back in Illinois named James McDonald, and there was somebody else too around the same time, had built up this incredible church, had built up this incredible infrastructure, had built this place for people to go and grow in discipleship and ministry. And what ended up happening is some dirt got put out on him, and then it's like you just throw away the baby with the bathwater. And if we take that approach with every leader, then every leader should get thrown out. Every leader has some issue, whether it comes to the public view or not. And that does not, it cannot discount them. I get that. Because if it didn't discount Jacob and him being a trickster, if it didn't discount David and him having some issues and Solomon having all these wives, like the Lord still used them despite our inconsistencies and our incongruencies and our idiosyncrasies and all the little 4 or 5 syllable words you want I can think of, right? And it's like I get that, and we want to restore a person gently, because how we restore others is how we will be restored. Judge, it's not about not judging; it's about judge. However you judge, it'll be meted back to you, right? And the scripture in Galatians says, like, if you judge harshly, like, be careful lest you fall into temptation. So I get it, but man, eating this word and letting it transform you from the inside out in this country, it's tough sometimes.
All right, I got one for you.
There it is. Come on, Jermaine.
As we talking about this, man, and I understand, in some people's eyes, he was a great man. And this forum, we're talking about him because he affected our lives, or he affected the lives of America. But if we did not talk about him, what effect would that have? Because at that point, I'm not saying this I'm saying this with care, but his life mattered. But if we did not talk about his life, would it matter in our lives? So being able to, give light to him as a man, are we doing ourselves disjustice by, getting worked up about him and what he did and did not do? Because there's plenty of folks like we've alluded to that did not get that same attention. And did it matter? Now, on the flip side, as Christians, and I'll be the first one to say I'm a hypocrite, because there's things that I do in the dark that are not brought to the light.
Mm-hmm.
And I would need to bring to the light so that I may be cleansed. So it's like, if he did to expand the kingdom, let's talk about that. And if he did things that did not expand the kingdom, are we supposed to talk about those things? Or are we supposed to let God avenge, who would judge who he needs to judge? Now, if we're judging by the Bible and by the standards of the Bible, okay, yeah. But then that's when we got to be, I guess, careful, like you said, because, hey, you're going to be judged. But, one thing is, are we judging by our own opinions, or are we judging by what the Bible says? And if we're judging by the Bible, I think that we're okay with that. With calling out. I was going on his on the watch list, and I was looking at some of the things, some of the colleges, and I brought up one professor, and I was like, oh, what he was talking about was DEI, and so they didn't like that. So I was like, but was the professor doing something that was wrong and causing division or not? So in my last 30 seconds, Black people need to check themselves and make sure that they're representing. And we've been so torn from the beginning of this country that You know, Willie Lynch, if he's a real person, has done its job, and we're still fighting whatever that system is. I digress. I really.
Big facts. I'm taking advantage of this platform, y'all. Jermaine, you made some good points. We being in that we are all. I'm gonna join you, so you know you're not by yourself. We are all hypocrites because we are flesh and spirit, and those things contend with one another, right? And so, because we are flesh and spirit, we have two reactions. And you know, the Bible says, "Make room for your anger, but do not let the sun set on it." Right? And this is what we're doing. So I don't know about y'all, but it's like I think we do give room for our flesh to judge, and we give room for our spirit to judge. But you know how I make a big deal about Proverbs 18:21. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. Don't switch it. Don't say life and death is in the power of the tongue, because now death gets the last word. If you take that same prioritization with the flesh and the spirit, let the flesh come first. Let the flesh have its reaction, but your last reaction should be spirit. That should be the thing that carries you out into the world, that carries you on your job, that carries you. We had to eat this when during COVID, right? When people were dying. My wife had to be like, I need to get this out. She took my role. I got to get this out now so that I don't go to work and look at my colleagues side-eyed, because I'm looking at you like you're having a response that's very much stirring my flesh up. And so she was like, I got to check myself. If I go back in here, having seen all that we've seen, and Black Lives Matter and all these such other things, and people trying to act like it doesn't. And it's like, okay, right? And again, Black Lives Matter was a movement. Kingdom Lives Matter, right? And what it made me think of, and I think this is what's going. I don't want to say it's calming me down. Like I was like through the roof. Y'all gotta tell me later if I was like over the top or whatever. But when we found out what we found out about Dr. King, his infidelity. Did it throw out all the good works that he'd done?
No.
It shouldn't have, but there are some who were not a fan of his work, that are now saying, well, look at this. And that's the thing that I think it always comes up in my face when we're expected to give the pass, but when they get the dirt on other people who we know that they're not necessarily in favor of, they want to throw this type of stuff out there. They was quick to get that stuff declassified so we can put that out there. And you know Dr. King was unfaithful to his wife, right? Okay. And so when this is the hard part of extending yourself, of extending an olive branch to someone who doesn't necessarily, their first reaction is not to extend it back. And that's what we talk about in the beta Satan, the offense though. Look, I give you a pass, but you don't return it. You don't give the pass back. And again, man, like that's to continue to look at people, and you can begin to kind of tell like you're gonna play this the way it's been played for the past 20, 30 years, 40 years, 2 or 3 generations, aren't you? You still gonna do the same thing. And like I said, it's tiring, man. It's tiring. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes when you get tired, you get cranky. Right? And it's just again, I'm happy that we're doing this, because we have to give ourselves a space to have these type of reactions and get it out.
Okay.
Flesh first, so that we can. I have a thing that I want to end us on, but flesh first, spirit has the final say though.
I don't know about you.
Sure. So I just look at it, once again in a way where it's like, how do we as a people just become more like we walk in a place where we are more valid to ourselves, to God, to ourselves, and then like that permeates no matter where you're at. And like I remember when Nipsey Hussle got shot, like I was like, dang, yo, like that affected me a little bit. And Kobe Bryant, died in a plane crash. I mean, died in a helicopter. I was like, that those things affected me, you know. And I was reading like a Facebook post, it was saying like, you know, people have been making jokes about, nobody's really sensitive to things anymore. They don't have any empathy and all that. And I have a high level of empathy, but with that, I understand that life is going to continue to move on. And that's exactly why I said what I said earlier, because it's going to continue to move on. God has other plans. God has other things that he is worried about. God is like, hey, look, man, it ain't stopping. We got showtime. We got things to do. Like feel that, but continue to move in the process of those things going on. I get it sometimes, like huge things, like his wife, definitely grieve. Like do what you need to. But us as a whole, as people, putting energy into something that is miles away from us when we have things in our own life that we have to take care of. To me, and if it's a part of it where you're using it as an instruction, great, which we are right now. But to like make it affect you to do what some people call HBCUs up, or for black people to be insensitive on Facebook. I was reading like a post. It was like it said this is their Nipsey Hustle. I ain't know. My bad. It was a black person posting it. Like this, and for me, I'm like, oh, that you say that, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like, what I'm saying? Nipsey Hustle hurt for me, but I also know that like Nipsey Hustle had a different type of lifestyle, and unfortunately, the organization that he was a part of was initially established to be something good for the community, to have defense with the Black Panthers and everything else. Like before the Crips and the Bloods were something completely different. And I've never been a banger or anything like that. I just really loved his message and what he talked about, and how he talked about being a person that comes from struggle and building up, wealth and buying properties and taking care of the family and putting God first. He talked about those things, but his message may be misconstrued to other people because of his look, because he got tattoos everywhere, he got gold on his neck, he got a blue flag hanging out of his pocket or whatever. But lo and behold, he's a man that understands, he puts God into his life. Everybody is used differently on this planet. Everybody message is completely different on this planet. So to be able to like navigate difficult situations where people can offend you, it's all about learning how to be more receptive and a student in other people's languages, and then when somebody is actually disrespecting you, like take it and be like, okay, like that's your thought process. You know what I mean? Until they start to put their hands on you or something like that. For me, that's the only time I'm like, all right, well, let me go ahead and just, let's get the things flying. But until that moment presents itself, I don't really need to be reactive off your conversation or off of how you treat me, because I know who ultimately treats me the best, and that's God. And then right after that, I love myself at a very high level. So I'm not dealing with any of it. I ignore it. I'm like, all right, I heard it. Now you got me shut off. Or if I have to receive the information, I'm gonna receive it and take a time to understand it. But I have, that level of empathy, because I also know what it feels like to lose somebody um that does mean something to me. But I'm not gonna let that be the thing that makes me, like be driven. And I'm not gonna, let your things that you feel like are significant to you, like I'm not gonna let myself take away from that, just because you were insensitive to my stuff. I really don't care. You know what I mean? Like you're people are here on this planet to help out one another, and I'm going to do that whether they figure that out or not. That's on them. I'm sorry for going over, but it's just like, hey man, let's go. You know what I mean? Like somebody else is going to take Charlie Kirk's place at some point. What do we do about that? You know. Um. But anyways, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, Tay, oh, go ahead, Jermaine.
No. Go ahead. But
no, I thought Tay, you said you had something.
Yes. I think this is on a different note, which is that from a kingdom perspective, I do think sometimes we all know that he said we'd be persecuted or whatnot, but I don't think we ever understand how real it is. And so this is like eye opening. This could be eye opening for some people to understand. Like I know I've been telling my wife, like we would do a poll and ask, the church body, how many of you guys are willing to die for Jesus? And I'm pretty sure majority of everybody will say they would. But then when it actually comes to it, would they actually do it? I know we keep saying there's gonna be no Charlie Kirk to pop up, but there's not many people out here who have a heart to actually go out here and spread the gospel as much as we think. That's why it says the laborers are few. I think now what I'm trying to hear is my first response was it doesn't bother me, so I'm not going to say much about it. I mean, other than just dialogue with people I know. But I think we have a responsibility for just hearing us talk now and us all being brothers is actually a cool perspective to have, which is that we have influence of other people of our color to talk to them and be like, hey, you know what, man, I know you feel that way, and because I'm black as well, and I can relate with what you're feeling. Let me give you a different perspective. Let me give you a different lens, because that's gonna come different from somebody who's white. They can be like, "We don't understand me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know my history." So it's almost a responsibility, and I get where you're saying you're tired of it, but the flip side of that is just encouragement. I remember somebody saying a long time ago, it was just like how black people are sometimes more athletic, stronger, or whatnot, and it's just like it is a blessing that we having to withstand so much of this history, and then you still have that. You are now here able to build that generational wealth if you so choose. The last part, because I don't know how much minute what I got. No, I don't need all four. Um, I think right now we've seen, and there are divides. I said George Floyd, but there's more recent, which was the voting, obviously, in the election. The world, we've seen churches become more inclusive and watering down the word. And it says as we get in later days, it's going to get more lawlessness. It's going to be, more false prophets. The word it's not going to be what it is. I know it sounds scary and definitely not supporting Trump because he's not Jesus Christ. He's a man. I'm looking at God. But there does need to be a clear division of what we do stand for. And I remember, like, I used to be lukewarm, so I know what it was like to be in the world but know what of God. And we got to make sure in that division that we're having the heart of God and that we're having that. Hey, this is his standard. His standard is his standard. This man has blown up cities and stuff over his standard. Obviously, you know what I'm saying. So it's like there is a clear division that has to be there, and sometimes we think it comes off as being judgmental or being hypocritical. But it's like, no, it comes off as being that his word. We our natural wants to dilute it to make it to where we can bring people in, and then we don't have to dilute it. His word is enough. His word is sufficient. I did end up using all four. I apologize, but yeah.
Are you apologizing? You still within your 4 minutes, bro?
Yeah, you in there. You in there. You in your four. You got it. No, and I get where you're coming from, and Kai, I appreciate your perspective, because at the end of it all, I was talking with Addison. He and I were having a conversation, and he said something. He said, "Kier," he's like, actually, I don't know where you fall politically, like what side that you fall on. I said, "Do you know why you don't know?" And Addison immediately he responded. He says, "Because your kingdom first." And I said, "Fam, you better know that. I've never labeled as a Republican or a Democrat. I ain't never labeled as a left or a right. I ain't never labeled as a denomination. I ain't never in 20 plus years of salvation, never. It won't happen because there's only one that matters above and beyond everything else, right? So whatever I choose to carry, I choose to carry. Jesus said, take my yoke and my burden. That's the only thing he told us to take. Everything else we choose to take, we choose to take. We choose that. And I'm like, Father, I don't want to take those things. And it doesn't make a difference. I was just talking with him and I was like, look, just at the simplicity of black man. I'm actually not black. I'm brown. I'm actually I'm a little more macchiato. Just saying, caramel macchiato, just to keep it 100. And the thing is that I'm not black. And I even told him, I was like, and I'm not African American because I wasn't born in Africa and then became an American citizen. That's an African American. I was like, thing is that there are enough labels and enough spaces of division that already exist. And there's only one line in the sand that's been drawn: kingdom of light, kingdom of darkness. Kingdom of light, kingdom of darkness. I have to make my decision. Am I standing there? And for every other person, that's the line in the sand. And I choose this. Now, within this time, I don't know why I'm really drawn to this particular passage of scriptures, but I want to be able to say it on the platform, even as we're doing this thing. In Acts chapter 5, starting at verse 33, this is when the apostles are arrested. And they said that in verse 33, now when they had heard this, they were infuriated and they intended to kill the apostles. But a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a teacher of the law, highly esteemed by all the people, stood up in the council and ordered that the men be taken outside for a little while. Then he said, Council, men of Israel, be careful in regard to what you propose to do to these men. For some time ago, Thaddeus rose up claiming to be somebody, and a group of about 400 men allied themselves with him, but he was killed, and all who followed him were scattered and came to nothing. After this man, Judas the Galilean rose up and led an uprising during the time of the census and drew people after him, and he was also killed, and all his followers were scattered. So in the present case, I say to you, stay away from these men and let them alone. For if the plan or action is of men, merely human in origin, it will fail and it will be destroyed. But if it is of God, and it appears that it is, you will not be able to stop them, or else you may even be found fighting against God. The council took his advice, and after summoning the apostles, they flogged them, ordered them not to speak in the name of Jesus, and released them. And it's just one of those things where I'm sitting back and I was like, if it's of God, can't nothing stop it. If it's not of God, Gamaliel and his advice says it'll fail, just like everything else has failed. Okay? And we know we're all going to have to stand before that judgment seat, no matter who you are, no matter what platform, what you do, what you don't do. Because that man, like you said, as a teacher, yes, there's a higher regard of a teacher. But just because a person is a platform doesn't necessarily make them a teacher. You're a teacher by your call of God. If you are a teacher, then you're going to be held to high accountable. But once again, if you begin to teach, then there's an accountability that's tied to that. And so I'm sitting back like, Father, please let me guard this heart and make sure that what we do and how this affects us is going forward, seeing things in the kingdom. What we do unto the Lord is going to prosper, it's going to go forward, and that's going to stop God's action. And what the Lord chooses to do with this whole situation, I trust him in the midst of it. Now, once again, dude being assassinated on a college campus by a sniper from 200 yards away, that was diabolical, right? And I'm sitting back like, that is diabolical. And I'm like, wow, because once again, there's a whole other plethora of things that's happening. But once again, are we seeing this through kingdom of light versus kingdom of darkness? And seeing what the darkness is doing and seeing how the kingdom chooses to respond. Now, for us, this is our platform. We've created this. We're doing this. This is a group of 6, 7 people on this line. What do we do with this next? What is it that God is requiring of us in going forward? And am I willing, whether I'm a Charlie Kirk or not, am I willing to put myself in, quote unquote, harm's way to be able to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ? That if it were to happen to me, and am I willing to be? This dude was willing to go toe to toe with people. Once again, there's other stuff that he did we ain't like, but he was willing to go toe to toe, as others have been willing to go toe to toe. And the thing is that I don't want to be afraid, and I don't want anyone who I disciple to be afraid, because it's like, dang, if you talk about Jesus, you might get sniped in the neck. So you might as well not say nothing. So then you get a whole crew of people who start going what we call back in the hood going D-mouth, where you ain't saying nothing because you worried about being sniped. You worried about being killed. You worried about, and the enemy would love nothing more than to get more people afraid to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ at the fact that you might be publicly killed. And the first century Christians understood that, and they did it. They did it. They was willing. Now we got 21st century Christians.
Use your time here. You gotta use your time, bro.
Okay.
All right.
I got a question. I don't want to start a timer. for Deuteronomy 32:39, where I want to have clarification on this. I think God's talking, but I could be completely wrong. But it says, "I make alive, I kill, I do all the good and evil." Like I don't I would like to be able to maybe get a better understanding of that. But from my understanding, it's like God's like saying like, "Hey, look, things are gonna happen, crazy things, you know, and amazing things at the same time." So you know, be with yourself throughout this journey and spread out those things, like spread out that love, give love, receive love, and stand on what the Bible says for sure. But understand that there's going to be a journey along the way, and it can go in multiple different ways. Is what I take from that.
What scripture did you say?
Deuteronomy 32:39.
Let's take a look at it.
Also, I don't know if my part should be recorded. I definitely get canceled for what I said earlier. Somebody would definitely.
We ain't worried about what's getting canceled. We're having conversation, and we are believing that the conversation that we're having and people that hear that will minister to them, because nobody has malice in their heart that's on this line tonight.
Respectfully, I respect that.
All right, so it says, "Now see that even I am he, and there is no God besides me. I kill and make alive, I wound and I heal, nor is there anyone who can deliver me, who can deliver from my hand." And so, we've had this discussion. I mean, with 16 minutes left, we've had the discussion. Kier has said this well. It's like, we always want to try to judge God's actions based on our morality, but his morality is above our morality, and his right way of doing things does not need to consider what we consider to be moral or not. We know that he told kings to kill women, children, men, everybody, but that's because he was trying to preserve the lineage that was in the land that would produce Jesus Christ from Joseph's perspective and from Mary's perspective, right? That lineage had to remain clean. That's what somebody also mentioned earlier. That was taken out of context, where Tay's pastor was saying like, you ain't supposed to mix, but that had nothing to do with black and white. That had everything to do with clean versus unclean. The spirit that was in the land, the seed of the serpent versus the seed of the woman, right? And so when he was like, "Yo, if I say kill, you kill, because I am he," and you have to trust that I have the benevolence, I have the omnipotence, I have the omnipresence to know what it is that's needed to get my will done in the earth, right? And so that's what this seems to be in evoking to me. I don't know if that helps with the question that you had.
I mean, it kind of lines up, doesn't it?
You gotta tell me. I'm trying to get the faces back. Hold on. Let me get the faces back. All right, here we go. Are you cool with that response though, Kai?
Yeah.
Not cool with it, but like, does it make sense?
Absolutely.
All right. Where is my little timer? Nobody's in
question
time right
about
now.
that.
Here it is.
I got a question about that. So
Well,
that scripture that you just read and like your explanation, like is that still prevalent like today? Like would God tell somebody to kill somebody today? And
Well, the reason for him having this desire and need to have certain people groups killed in the Old Testament was the preservation of the chosen people's lineage, to make
right.
sure that Jesus came through. Jesus has come through now. That's why we have a New Testament, right? I can't go out as far as to say that he's not. I can't go as far as to say that he's not. He's not going to say to somebody that you need to do away with said person. I don't believe that's where we are in this new covenant now, right? I don't believe, because he's not, because like I said, Jesus has come. What he was preserving in the land, and the end result that it needed to happen for the salvation of all mankind was that Jesus was born without iniquity, right? That's been accomplished. So I don't believe that he's of the mindset to tell somebody today, like he told in the Old Testament, kill women, kill children, kill this people group, whatever. I don't see him doing that now, because this is a new covenant that he's established.
Yeah.
Right? Again, it's the thing of death and life. Like the death came first, so that life could come last.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Gotcha.
Is it? Oh, go ahead, Kier.
No, I was just going to, as Reggie chimed in, for Lorenzo's question, and also with Kai, that if God is saying that it is I who put to death, remember Jesus says, "No one takes my life; I lay it down." So it is the Father. It is the Father that gave instruction to the Son, and the Son laid down his life unto the Father. So yes, like you said, everything was protecting that bloodline. Once it happened, he is now. The Bible says he died for all. So here he is taking that all, and he died, and he took it, right? But will God also still put to death? Absolutely, because the scriptures has told us when the wrath comes and the judgment comes, he's still gonna put to death. He's still gonna do it. It's gonna happen. And is it gonna be just by people's hands? But the Lord just showed us, if we read the books, that we got stuff coming that he's gonna bring. He's got bowls and scrolls. He's got things that's gonna happen in the earth, and he's gonna use all his creation to scorch it and to cause death to happen. But he's also one, like you said, who also preserves life, and he keeps life. I have wounded, and it is I who heals. God leaves this to his prerogative. As the Lord took the entire human race out minus 8 people, he did that because that's his prerogative. And he did it righteously and judgely. But he also said that when it comes to the end, the Bible even talks about it's scarce that the righteous make it in. The righteous scarcely make it in, right? Because it's his judgment. It's his standard. And when the Lord causes death, Jesus says, what? Don't fear man who can only destroy the body, but destroy him who can destroy both body and soul in hell. That means that's his prerogative. And I'm okay with serving a God who has that prerogative. I'm 100%, but some people ain't. I'm okay with that. And the objective is do life his way, so you don't endure the wrath. I'd rather endure what I must endure this side than to endure the wrath later. You feel? So,
Hey man, do you still have another question? Guess you got the hand.
Yeah. So in that same verse, is your God little God a God or a big God? Little. So what does that mean then?
what the God that I have says, and there is no God besides me.
Okay, so that's little God.
Yes.
No, no,
But
no.
the he on mine is capital.
Okay. See, the he on mine is lowercase. So I just want, maybe I got to get a different Bible.
You know, I always advocate amplified.
So can I extend on that just a little bit?
You got 9 minutes.
Cool. So like my whole spiritual what is it they call your spiritual resurrection, like just going through the process of like my first half of life, like I really was going through some things where I really didn't like this right here would have got me emotional some years ago. Highly too. I mean, I used to, go back and forth. And then when I look at Facebook, I look at Instagram, and I look at all these people and their comments and things like that. And Jay-Z says something, he says, and I think it's a quote that he got from somebody else, but I saw an old man argue with a fool, and from a distance I couldn't tell who was who. Yeah. So like when I look at things, I think of it and I'm like, spiritually, God has awoken me, through
Say awaken, because you say woke, you might get on somebody's list. I'm sorry.
but not for real. So like I'm just all of this is like me, like I understand that like my opinions I have not like they're strong, but they're not strong. It's like I understand that God, like I said, is the ultimate thing. I used to idolize so many different things. I mean, even like football or this and that and school and army career and things used to get me all over the place. I'll jolt over there real quick, I'll jolt over there real quick. And now like I have everything that I used to have going on plus 10 times more than that. And I'm like, whatever. And it's all just like floating around. I'm like, all right, got that, do this, organize this, this goes here, this goes here. And it's because God is synced within me. God's like, stop paying attention to that. Do this right quick. Go do this. Luke 17:21, speaks about where Christ is. It's not over there with my daughter. It's not over there when I gotta help out a mentee. It's not over there where Charlie Kirk happens. It's not over there when my car gets a flat in the back rear tire and it happens 2 times in a row. It's not when it's like, nah, just handle that in the moment. Christ is within you. You don't need nothing to distract you. Just handle the work. Just go get it done. And then with that, I understand that God is already synced within me. Christ is within me. It ain't going nowhere. I have God, and then everything that I do, because I extend out with my heart positioned in the right place, knowing that I ain't perfect, knowing that Deuteronomy 32:39 says you're gonna do all types of stuff in between here and here, making alive and killing, like hopefully you don't kill nobody and go to jail. Hey, look, you got free will. You can follow me, Jesus Christ and God, understanding that Christ is within you, but understanding that all of this is in access in between. You decide how you want to live your life. That's how I take that. So I live like that. I'm like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be living stressed out about certain things. I can't fix it. I can't. All I can do is do my part and help out as many people as I possibly can along the way to get this message right here. All of that other stuff is here today and gone tomorrow. You know, and I look at it and I'm like, well, I feel truly aligned because I mean I have a lot of great things going on. I'm just thankful. I wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. still thankful. Thank you, God, for giving me another day of life. Let me go ahead and run this up. You woke me up today. I'm about to go run it up. Yeah, man, what happened? Something happened yesterday. My people's good. My family good. Word, let's keep on going. Like, you know what I mean? And then and then like as long as I'm doing that and I'm taking care of what God has me doing, I be feeling good, dog. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I be feeling phenomenal. Things just be like, and this is a complete difference from when I started Bible study. I was going through it. I was crying. I was breaking down because all my emotions was into, oh, the mother of my child. And I put idols, icons out there, things to fill me up when God, like, you already got me.
Yeah. Come on.
You already got me.
Preacher.
So I look at these things and I sit there and I think, like, I'm too cool for that. God made me way too cool to be sitting here worried about something that I ain't got no control over because God does it. He just said it in Deuteronomy 32:39. He got this is the crazy part. Charlie Kirk had a body vest on.
Mm-hmm.
And the bullet still said, hey, he got hit in the chest. He got hit center mass. The shooter was a good shot. God said, no, that you missed. I'm not saying, and God does what he like. God didn't take my mom away at 18 and said, hey man, God said, this is what's happening. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna break up. You're gonna go through some failures in life because you're not perfect. This whole thing is to make sure that I shape you the way I want you to be. I don't care about what the world. That's how I receive it. God didn't send me through airborne ranger and special forces to become a salesman and be a janitor starting off. Going through breakups. All these different things for me to be like, oh well, God, I'm upset that you didn't make. God, like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? This is my will. This ain't yours. This God plans, homie. This ain't mine. So I live like that.
God, what you're saying is in here, Genesis 15:1. Because at the end of the day, when Abram chose to follow him, he says, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And nothing that comes into our lives can change that. And once we have that understanding and we have that peace, that I don't care what just happened with Charlie Kirk, I don't care what just happened with my mama, I don't care what just happened with my children, he is still my shield.
Yeah.
Great reward.
Yeah. It feels good. I've never felt like this in my life. It's insane. I'm like, oh, I feel like Goku and Ultra Instinct at all times. It's crazy. I'm so happy I'm here because it just allows me like flow. Just go to the next thing. Go ahead, do this. Go ahead, knock this out. I got 2 mentees at the courthouse, and I'm sitting here like, people gravitate towards me because I feel it. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I've never felt this before. And it's like, all right. And as things are going on, I had to figure out a situation for my buyer who's getting into I had to guide the whole conversation between the listing. It's a whole bunch of chaos. Then a whole bunch of chaos over here, a whole bunch of chaos over here. And I'm like, I'm cool. This is fun to me. I'm just doing work as is Jesus would just handling business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, worked up. We got 2 minutes left. We getting worked up here, over here, getting in the
Oh
screen.
man.
Jermaine smiling.
What y'all know
Jermaine,
about
what you
Goku?
smiling about, bro?
Yeah, man,
Interesting,
just
yo.
Jermaine,
Goku,
like,
baby.
nah, Jermaine is
Wait,
blushing
wait.
right now. Jermaine,
Oh,
what you got to say,
What
bro?
y'all know about that?
so
Maya.
wait. Because I'm sorry. I just ain't gonna get past the fact that Kai just preached his first sermon. We're not gonna get past that. We're not.
He got this, he got worked up.
Me.
He gonna bust out his little white towel. Lord.
And then the boy gonna go off and preach Goku. I said, "Oh, Father."
That's right. That's just, yo, I'm weak. It was cool. That was a good moment right there. But that's how I be feeling, you know.
Jermaine, what were you gonna say? What you trying to say, man? Jermaine got.
So the thing is, I think Tay, maybe Kai said this. So what are we gonna do? Because his ministry, Charlie Kirk, is going on. But we have two ministers here. We have two fantastic leaders here that have a ministry. So we need to support that. Just like how Charlie Kirk and the folks that are supporting those Christians and whoever else is supporting that ministry to blow it up. How about blowing this up?
Hey.
How about elevating this and pouring in to this, so that way that this can be on the larger platform. So when and I'm not no, and if something I won't say it, but this ministry will blow up to affect and change the world just like that ministry did. So let's do that.
That is not what I was expecting you to say at all, but appreciate you. Salute. I'm not a chat blowing up. I mean, good gracious, we ended in a minute, right? I know we're about to end, right? We're about to take off again. Okay. Lorenzo put Ecclesiastes chapter 2 in there. We got Goku, sermon number 2. All right. Look, y'all know what I say. I don't negotiate with hostages. I do not. I'm not a terrorist. I do not keep you longer. It is 10
We're
o'clock.
not sales.
You are free to leave, but if you want to keep the conversation going, we can continue. You do not have to be obligated to stay. It is 10. We do not keep you beyond how long you want to be kept. I did say I wanted to end it a certain way. I had a friend of mine put a post out today, and this is what he said. He said, "I've learned to let people have their heroes and people they admire. Don't try to convince them that their hero wasn't upstanding or honorable. I keep quiet about it because it helps reveal who they really are and what type of people motivate them. I'm minding my business and focusing on my own." Now I'm going to alter his last statement, his last sentence. And this is our mindset. I'm minding my father's business and focusing on my own Lord, my own submission. Amen.
Real talk. No, that's real. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's real talk.
What would have been really cool is if y'all remember the 20 questions y'all did when I know we did it when I first joined the chat. And
Yep.
one of the taboo wasn't like taboo questions, or like it was like why do bad things happen to good people?
Mm-hmm.
And then we discussed when Jesus said nobody's good except the Father. And my wife, when we was in the car, and when she first told me about it, she said a politician died. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, who was it? She said Charlie Kirk. And I said, he ain't a politician. I know Charlie Kirk is. Charlie Kirk. So then I was like, interesting. And then she was like, so I told her who he was and this whatnot. She said, he ain't deserve that. And I said, oh, hold up. What you mean he ain't deserve that? And she was like, what you mean? And I was like, what? And then it instantly brought me back to when we was talking about our last call about Saul. And we was like, did he deserve it? And I'm like, man, that's tough, man. You know what I'm saying? But I'm thinking like on the kingdom mindset, and we know that, like I was like, God allowed that. I'm not saying he done it, but he allowed it. Obviously, if he wanted him to be protected, he would have protected him. He's a sovereign God. When not, it was allowed, it happened. I'm mourning for the wife, the kids. They lost their father. She lost her husband. She's grieving. But if anybody didn't deserve anything, it would be Jesus. Jesus died for our sins.
Yeah, he didn't deserve it.
And he didn't deserve it. So what I look like saying that somebody else don't deserve something that's less, and we're all deserving.
Yes.
So on that same thought, so I was like, so we gotta be us as the body, we have to now operate in this thing because we're all saying we believe in the same thing, right? What would have been crazier and had just the demons all types of riled up if this happened and the church body just said, our God is still sovereign. I'm not even gonna respond. I'm gonna let you know what his will is. Who next? The word's still gonna be preached. I'm still gonna show love. I can take, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's what us, and it's the opportunity where it's just like that's what we gotta. So when I'm telling people, I'm just like, I want to show, so that way when I tell them, the people in jail, the guys in the jail, I'm like, y'all in the jails and something that the guards treating you guys bad and they do y'all dirty, and then you don't respond, and you have a cool mindset about it. They be like, dang man, why you not bothered?
right.
And then you said, because my God is still he's still holy. He's still giving me this peace. And they start looking at you like, what's up with this guy? What he got? What he talking about? And that, that's but yeah, so that's my I'm like, man, that's what I want to see. Is when bad stuff happen in the body, instead of us dividing, we come together.
That's ultimately what I want to, man. I just feel like this thing that happened just showed that we're not.
Everybody's colors.
Yeah,
Yeah, but once you what like, and that's the whole point of this. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, I'm a little skeptical about the things that I've said, but also I know that, like, because I trust God, I'm like, all right, and that's a part of it. But like, once you realize that you're a spiritual being living in a physical body, not the other way around, then you start to realize that, like, we all got our time. God gonna call us all. You know what I mean? We all gonna go different ways, and like, unfortunately, sometimes it's in a rougher way than others, and but it's still the exact same thing. We gotta go. I legitimately this morning woke up and I was like, man, I really, I'm alive again another day. And I'm like, that's weird to me, like, uh, of all the things that I've kind of endured, and then I look at it and I'm like, I have a lot to do. Like, my mother didn't get to see the things physically what's going on, but my daughter for sure will. Like, she's gonna experience some weird stuff because things are happening very fast, but all of it is because of God. Like, you know what I'm saying, and giving that and helping other people understand that too. They can gain the exact same peace. It's within you. It's just it's just work. You gotta do it every day. You gotta love it. Yeah.
It
Anyway.
is appointed for every man to die. There is a day, right? How
Yeah.
we choose to go, or how not to choose, how we go, ain't always our choice. And just because we know the reality that the apostles do, oh my God, and the first century Christians, oh my God, and the brothers and sisters who are alive in 2025 and other countries where it's outlawed, OMG, right? And here they are suffering and suffering even unto the point of death for the cross. And I want us to be prepared when the laws are no longer the laws here in America, and when the persecution hits, and the poop hits the fan for real, right? And it starts coming against us, and Matthew 24 is coming alive right in our face. I want us prepared. I want us to be in that space where, regardless of, I'm not going to be ashamed of the Jesus that saved my life. And I was saying this to the New River Men. We was talking about something similar to this line, and I said, listen, I was like, it's one thing for a man to give up his own life for Christ. It's another thing when someone you love is threatened for your faith in Christ. And I said, we ain't the first ones where someone put a gun to your wife's head or your children's head and say, denounce Jesus or I kill them. And you're going to be put to the test. And here he is. It's like this love that's going to wax cold. And the stuff that Christ has warned us about that's coming. I want us so prepared and not distracted, because we can't be distracted by any of these small things that happen, but to stay focused on the task at hand. And I believe that's what you're given. You know what I'm saying? Because when you talk about Goku going ultra, bro, that boy was on task. Listen here. And when it came time to throw them things, like you was talking about, my man was laser focused. And he ain't allowing nothing to the left, nothing to the right. Because as soon as you get distracted, you dead. You done. But the objective is that for us not to be distracted. And I don't want us to be distracted. I know we have to see these things. We got to pray these things. And in the immortal words of Finnick from Hunger Games Part 2, remember who the real enemy is. And I don't never want us to forget who the real enemy is. No matter what's happening, let us never forget who the real enemy is. Otherwise, we get distracted by too much. And I don't want us to get that distracted. So, man, I love this discussion. I appreciate everybody for doing this. I almost didn't want to mess with Reggie with that New York hat on. He went East Coast on me. And I was like, I know how them East Coast Negroes be. You know what I'm saying?
Get the camel on with it too. You know what I'm saying?
I know how them East Coast Negroes be.
He was ready for war as soon as we got on.
He was though, wasn't he? 'Cause I was
He
like, not
was.
him with the army hat on.
Yeah, he was
got
ready
the
for war
Army
as soon
New
as
York
we got
hat.
orders.
Let the record show. I'm gonna be like Claire Huxtable. Let the record show. There was somebody parked in my driveway before I forgot that my daughter was getting picked up by somebody because my wife wasn't here. And so I'm like, who is this? Like, am I just chilling in my driveway though? So I already had the fatigues on. So I was like, let me go get my hat. So when I come out here, it's known. And when I saw who it was, he was like, oh. I said, he's like, oh, it's just me. I was like, okay. I dapped him up. He's like, you was ready though. I said, yeah, you saw how I came out here.
Boy,
it wasn't about this.
Came out straight red.
Like,
okay. Guns. I told you, guns out. As soon as I came out, I was like, let me put my little pea shooters away while Reggie got his guns out. Let me put my pea shooters away. But no, this was good, and I appreciate you fellas. And I pray that we will continue to grow. I appreciate the word from you, Jermaine, concerning what God is doing inside of this, and that we can grow this and continue to move forward with men's lives being transformed. And as we all are willing to check not only ourselves, but to keep checking each other, right? So that we can grow and see those places where we might be still holding and tethered onto something where we're losing sight of the fact that we're spiritual first, having natural experience, and not being natural first, having spiritual experiences, right? So I want us to keep growing in that, man. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all so much, man. Because this was rich and this was good, and I'm glad we got this thing, we got it out, but it ain't gonna be the last time because I got a feeling we're gonna have more.
Yeah,
this was good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah.
I like the 4-minute timer. That was dope. It was very smart. So gave everybody time.
Yep.
Very well done.